Hi there. My name is Tyler Smith, and I'm here with my good friend Jonathan Finkel. And I read a book by Mark Borderland called The Dumbest Generation. And I was so moved by this book,
Oh,
and I thought it was so
yeah.
important that I decided to do a show about it. And I was born in 1963. Jonathan, what year were you born in?
41.
He's born in 41, so he's kind of right at the end of the World War II, the very edge of the World War II generation, and
Yeah.
but you can remember, things from that whole time period the same way I can remember things from the '60s, just a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so let's get into a couple facts. 52% of high schoolers couldn't identify Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, or Japan as our allies in World War II. These are high school students.
Yeah.
Let me reiterate that. Uh, and you got to figure that, since this was a multiple choice test, maybe some of them got the answer right by accident. The problem might
Yeah.
even be worse than
Yeah.
52%.
Good point.
You know, general knowledge skills have dropped dramatically in this country,
Oh.
particularly amongst young people, while PC skills have gone up significantly. They're very computer savvy and technology savvy, but
Right.
in terms of general knowledge skills, they're lacking, you know, they're greatly lacking in those areas. A lot of young people argue we do not need to memorize a lot of facts because we can just Google it,
Yeah.
if we
Oh,
need to
that's
know
right.
something.
Right.
And I'm like, that is so wrong, and let me explain why.
Yeah.
To be a fully self-actualized person,
Yeah.
you need a broad base of general knowledge in
Right.
order to draw from that to make good decisions.
Yeah.
It's like, should I marry this woman?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll Google it.
Yeah.
You can't Google that decision.
You can't.
Well, you can try.
Oh my God! How
And
disillusioned.
there are services for that, on the internet, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But you're putting yourself in a situation where you're letting the technology do the thinking for you.
Oh yeah.
And,
To be sure.
and that's a dangerous thing. The brain is a muscle. It's either use it or lose it.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And
Yeah.
and our computers are doing our math for us. We're entering the data, but we're only understanding a part of the puzzle. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we're doing the data entry
Right,
on it,
right.
but we're not understanding the full thing of how the math works. And it's like, what if the computer breaks down?
Right.
Where are you then? Did you ever see the movie Flight of the Phoenix? A 1958 film, Jimmy Stewart, Hardy Kruger.
Well, if I
George
did,
Kennedy.
I don't know.
Okay, but it was actually based on a true story. And Hardy Kruger was actually playing himself in the film. That was his story.
Oh. Okay.
That plane actually did crash out in the desert, and he was an aviation engineer.
Oh.
And designed a new airplane using the parts from the wreckage
Oh.
to build a new airplane and fly him out of there.
Oh, the Phoenix. It's
Yeah.
well named.
And the interesting thing was that he had to do the entire thing with a pencil, a notepad, and a slide ruler.
Yeah. Right.
And he was able to do it with such primitive tools. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas most aviation engineers today,
Right.
it's like if their computers broke, forget it.
Right. That's a very good point. Right. It's like we're farming out more and more mental capacity to these prosthetic.
Yeah. Our technology is making us
technology.
dumber. It should be
Yeah.
making us smarter, but it's not because we're using it as a crutch.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's a frightening trend. And because people don't have to do it the old way, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And they have a much more superficial understanding of things.
Yeah.
It's interesting because if you look at the people who are in positions of leadership, there was a guy who was a governor in the colonies, back when we were colonies.
Oh.
And he said about the masses, keep them ignorant and we can control them.
Oh, really?
That was their attitude,
Uh-huh.
and that's still, I think, the attitude of a lot of people in power. Let's keep them dumb, because then we can control them easier. We can keep them down. We can oppress them. We can suppress them. But the thing is it's like we can use media to do that, to entertain them, pacify them.
Right. I see what you're getting at.
And to tell them what they should think.
Yeah.
so they'll be thinking what we want them to think.
Right.
You see,
Yes.
you see what I'm saying? And
Yes,
that's a very dangerous tool of technology, of television and of the media.
Yeah.
You know, like Fox News telling us what we should think. And you know, there used to be a law that if you're going to present a position, you've got to give equal time to the counterpoint of the opposition.
Oh, right,
of that position.
That got
that law was squashed.
Yeah.
And the day it was
right.
squashed, Fox News went on the air.
Oh.
Because now they can just tell their opinion,
Yeah.
and they don't have to listen to anyone else has to say.
Right. That's true.
You know, so it became Pravda of the West.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. So, you know, another problem of our society is we have things like if we want coffee, we got instant coffee. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We got coffee makers.
Yeah.
You want coffee? Boom, there's the coffee.
Right.
You want to be entertained?
Yeah.
Boom, throw in a DVD.
Yeah.
Turn on the TV.
Yeah.
Turn on the radio. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
You know, it's like instant entertainment.
Instant, right.
You know, and we're young people who are used to experiencing that,
Yeah.
you know, they expect solutions quickly and easily and to be entertaining. You know, and this sets up dangerous expectations.
Yeah, right.
That aren't realistic expectations.
Right, true.
You know, and they think that, like, the problem with the economy, you know, or the problem with AIDS or stuff like that. You know, can't we just fix this quickly? You know?
Yeah, or the problem of being a human being. Right?
Yeah, getting old or something like that, you know? And I think that's a very dangerous trend of young people.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting. I look at the cycles of things. It's like, it's like in the seeds of our successes are our failures, and the seeds of our failures are our future successes. You know, and I look at America at the end of World War II. We had a very healthy, robust economy. We were the most powerful nation in the world militarily and economically.
Right.
And people, I think, got sloppy as a result of that. You know, they thought they thought we didn't need to really stay competitive. You see what I'm saying? And you look at Tucker.
Oh, yeah, that would be inevitable,
Yeah. You look at Tucker. He was trying to come up with a bigger car. I mean, a better car than what the big three were coming up with. And they squashed him in their lawsuits. You see what I'm saying? To bury him.
Tucker.
Yeah, he was coming up with a car called the Tucker. And they buried him to make sure that they pushed him out of the way as competition.
I see.
You know, they love capitalism
I hadn't heard about
until it comes after them.
Very good.
You know, they praise capitalism, and then they try to subvert it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the needs of
That's
business and the needs of capitalism aren't necessarily the same needs. You know, and you know, some professors were talking about that. Capitalism wants more competition. Business wants to squash the competition.
Yeah, that's right. They like the unregulated free market until it doesn't serve their purpose.
To serve their purpose, You know, it's interesting to me because years later, the big three auto companies went to Congress asking for a loan to keep them in business because they're going bankrupt because they're getting buried by the foreign competition. Who they couldn't squash like they did Tucker. You see what I'm saying? You know, I bet Tucker was rolling over his grave watching that. He's like, are you kidding me? They did this to me, and now they're coming to Congress for money because they can't stay competitive. You know, I mean, you know, horrific. You know, I look at a man like Thomas Edison, and I have mixed feelings about Thomas Edison. You know, in some ways, he was a very admirable man. In some ways, he was a real jerk.
Like most people.
Yeah. You know, they got some good, some bad. But Edison, you know, he believed absolutely in hard work. You know, work really hard.
99% perspiration.
He said it's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. He told young people, work hard, pick goals, work hard at those goals. You know, until you succeed. You know, one of my favorite stories about Edison was he came up with 20,000 ways the light bulb didn't work. You know, and someone approached him and said, you know, don't you feel that was a waste of your time and money and resources? He said, no, not at all. They're like, how's that? He says, well, I've eliminated 20,000 things that don't work. Now I'm closer to finding what does. You know,
that's a good example
and he
among
finally
other
did
things.
come up with a working light bulb.
Yes, that's right.
You know,
of course.
so he was right in that.
Yes.
You know,
That's
but
right.
I don't. You know, but amongst young people, I see a lot of them not wanting to go into uh, things like science and engineering. I see them wanting to go into things like being actors, being directors.
Yeah.
You know, they want to be
Like
celebrities.
you.
Yeah. yeah, I'm my own worst example.
Well, everybody has to. We need actors.
Yeah.
We need. What was the other thing? Mechanics or
Yeah, we
whatever.
need engineers, we need
Engineers.
mechanics.
Yeah, but we need actors, right?
Yeah, we need
We need
actors.
We need Tylers.
Yeah,
right?
we do need people in the media, but at the same time, we can't have everyone go into it.
Yeah, right.
You know, we need
Yeah,
other
because
people to
I
do
know
other
what you're
things.
saying. Because the way they want celebrity and they don't have any
Yeah.
deeper motivation or something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, one of the problems with young people is they get an exaggerated sense of their own self-importance. That's not realistic. Also,
Oh, right.
you know, these young kids, Mark Bauerlien was saying at his school, as soon as class ends, they'll flip out a cell phone.
Oh.
As soon as
Oh,
the class ends, and they'll start talking on it like
Oh.
they're the CEO of some major corporation. Like they got something really important to say to someone else on the planet.
Yeah.
And they don't. They're just
Yeah.
socializing with their own peer group.
Yeah, so that's a big idea of
Yeah.
inflated self-importance.
So
That's
a
right.
sense
Their
of
own little
their own
world.
a sense of self-importance, and by the fact that they have media like YouTube and Facebook and the internet,
Yeah.
just and emails to socialize with. He said the problem with teenagers is the thing teenagers are most interested in is other teenagers,
Right.
and
That's true.
that's also a frightening trend because they're not talking.
Well, that's always going to be that way.
Yeah, but I'm saying there was a time. Yes, that was always true, but there wasn't a time when they had so many tools to access themselves, and to perpetuate this.
Yeah, right. That's right.
You know, it's interesting if you look at Roman times and a society that lasted for thousands of years. You had people that were politicians in their society, that were leaders,
Right.
and they had children, and the older people would teach the younger people their knowledge and pass that on to the next generation.
Right.
To lead, and you had bureaucrats and engineers in that society, and they were passing down their knowledge to the next generation, who would be bureaucrats and engineers in that society.
Right.
And if teenagers are just talking to teenagers, they're going to be reinventing the wheel when they get older. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
They're not going to have that base of knowledge. And to be a self-actualized person, they need to talk to older people. They need to interact with them and learn from them.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
That's
I do.
another very frightening trend.
Yes, I agree.
And to exasperate the problem of the trend, you got people going on there on the internet, doing their own shows, and they some of them do become celebrities. They actually, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, at least on a local level.
Sure.
It's funny because when I was doing my own public access show in Fairfield, I actually came in third for mayor. And I wasn't even running for mayor. But people saw me on TV every week, and they're like, this guy he seems interesting.
Well, they wrote in votes for you?
Yeah. They have other box, and I actually got something like, I forget what it was, like 40 or 60 votes or something like that, And I wasn't running. That's an interesting thing. If we think about it for a moment, if I had one, it's like, if nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve. I mean, would I be obliged to be the mayor? I don't think, legally, I don't think I would. I could step down. But at the same time, if I did win, I could just assume the office.
Yes.
It's like I give up house painting. I'll be the mayor of Fairfield, But the thing is that it's a dangerous tool for that reason. And it's also, to be a self-actualized person, you really need a broad base of knowledge.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And in order to get that, you've got to talk to older people. There's no other way around it.
Yes.
Because otherwise you'll just be in a perpetual state of teenager land.
Yeah.
Even as an adult.
Yeah, and one point he makes in that book on that subject is that it's also a matter like reading books. You know, I mean, just being involved with these media is not as, and it's frenetic, sort of very fast, irritable, impatient, mental rhythms, is not a substitute for reading a poem carefully and deeply, or reading a book like the one by Mark
Bauerlien, yeah.
You know, and being able to read and think in a quiet way. And it has to do with this deferred gratification thing, you know. The rhythms of a novel are impossible for kids who have, you know, irritated their minds up into this impatient state, you know. And it's not, I think you're absolutely right about this requirement for gaining general information and how it can be that this involvement with the media and this kind of teenage world, you know, can deprive kids of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, but it goes beyond even general information. It goes to a different way, a very traditional way, just a human way of thinking, being more analytical, more contemplative, more rational, you know. And that's one of the things that he's lamenting, you know, that for all the hype and the celebration about some new revolutionary mode of you know, consciousness that enabled by this technological breakthroughs of the media and everything like that. You know, there's always going to be people who say, "Oh, this is great. This is the new thing," you know. And one thing that they do is they celebrate it because it enables kids to be more technically equipped to succeed economically in a technical society, because they're so hip to all these computer things since they were infants or whatever. And so you know, and I think he criticizes that narrow idea, or does he? I think so, you know, of what the purpose of education is. You know, it's not just to grind out people who are humanly deprived and culturally deprived and able to work in this technical society as if that was all there was involved. But when you have things like that, a juvenile thing, a technical, you know, this whole thing that you're talking about, there's always going to be people in the media, in the intellectual people who maybe they're 40 or 50 years old, which means they're probably immature, right? But they are pandering to the youth, or the same thing happened in the 60s, you know, where kids, there was a lot of rebellion, a lot of it was infantile, and there was lots and lots of professors who got on the bandwagon. They thought the youth are wise. They're the ones who know. You know, it's stupid, right?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of
I mean, I don't want to sound like an old fogey and conservative and everything like that.
A lot of the youth that were in college at the time, they were informed people, and some of them were very smart.
Yeah.
But a number of them made very bad decisions, too.
Yeah, they did. And also, I want to correct myself, you know. I mean, there was some very wonderful things that happened in the 60s. Yeah. But it was a very mixed bag.
Yeah, oh, yeah, you know, absolutely.
You know, so I'm just comparing that time to this time in the sense that there's a whole youth, you know, like youth-driven thing going on. And there's lots of people in the magazine. And that's one of the fascinating things in the virtues of his book. He is not only talks about what's going on, but he is conducting an argument with the people who are justifying it and praising it and think it's the greatest thing, you know.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to do the show was because people were trying to tear down his arguments, particularly amongst young people. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this show now, because I really feel that they were wrong and Mark Bauerlien was right on the money.
I tend to feel that way myself.
Yeah. And one of the things they said was, well, we can just Google it if we want to know something.
Yeah,
you know, we don't have to memorize all
Books
these
are obsolete.
And I'm like, no. You know, it's like what Plutarch said. He was a historian.
Yeah, right.
He said, a society that has no knowledge of history lives in a perpetual state of adolescence. You know.
Very good. Yeah.
And that is so true. In order to, because otherwise, you're always going to be reinventing the wheel. trying to figure things
Oh,
out.
right.
You know, and you're going to make,
That's right.
you know, as the ancient Greeks warned us, you will either learn from history or you will be destined to relive it. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
but the problem is we've got the potential to destroy ourselves either with environmental neglect or with weapons of mass destruction. We can't afford to learn history. We've got a situation where we're facing the worst crises this planet has ever seen. With some of the most immature people, some of the most immature generation rising up to meet that challenge. Steve, a friend of mine in Fairfield, he said that he has no faith in young people anymore. In the generation that's coming up.
Steve, I know Steve.
You haven't met him.
Different
Steve.
Different Steves.
The one you're thinking about, my best friend. But yeah,
what's the one?
He's an older guy. But he said he has absolutely no. He's
an older
horrified.
guy?
He's about your age. And he's absolutely horrified with what he sees coming up.
Oh, really? And for reasons like the ones you're talking about?
I'm talking about, He says they don't have the intellect, they don't have the discipline, they don't have the maturity.
Right.
And they're just a bunch of selfish, overgrown, spoiled brats.
Who think that they
know everything, and they know very little. But the thing is unless
but I wonder.
And another thing that really bothers me is our if you look at our older values, we valued integrity, honor. Having shame when you do something wrong.
Those are very
old
traditional
values. And if you feel good and if you're happy, these are things of little importance. But now, feeling good and being happy is of all encompassing importance. And honor, integrity are things of that's for old fogies. That's for those crazy old people.
That's
talk to. That's the way they think.
That's a pretty heavy-duty accusation to make against the whole generation, and you may be right. I don't really know, but you think that's associated with the this media thing that you're talking about?
I think
for reasons. I can see a connection there.
Let me give you an example here. There was a TV show that had this guy who was a grandfather, and he was living with his daughter and his granddaughters, and he was trying to discipline his daughters so they'll have a chance in life. So they can become fully developed, people. He wasn't doing it to be mean. He was doing it, so they have the discipline they need to get through the world. And the show got canceled because kids weren't watching that. They'd rather watch Hannah Montana. Something that panders to telling them what they want to hear. And just exasperating the problem even further.
And part of that is just kids' mentality, but part of it maybe is their parents, the generation before them that generated them. Something about the attitude
well, part of the problem is the younger generation grew up on the technology. They grew up with having all these perks. You see what I'm saying? And now they have no problem. They see nothing wrong with the kids getting the same thing. And not having any discipline,
Well, because there's people who say that it goes beyond that. It's a matter of a kind of, everybody knows about some of these values that you mentioned, honor, and whatever. Self-sacrifice, great, important values.
Hard work.
They're very traditional values, And then there's other values that people in a more like post-traditional thing would bring in to supplement those, like empathy and compassion and tolerance for all kinds of people and so forth. And
but also a value our society seems to have lost is literacy.
Well,
It's
but I'm just saying,
like what Alex Huxley warned us in A Brave New World.
Right.
So they're not going to burn books. People are going to be they're going to have their brains French fried watching TV. They're going to, bombarded with trivial and irrelevant information that people just aren't going to bother to read them.
That's right. The guy in Brave New World, the savage. Huxley, he was
warning us about this.
Well, he could.
This is
he read Shakespeare.
1940s. Talking about prophetic and profound and correct.
I think there's a lot to that. that Huxley's world has.
The warning.
Yeah, well, it came true in certain ways.
Yeah, it came very frighteningly true.
Yeah,
You know, you look at a show like Fox News, where they show George W. Bush as president, you know, just doing his daily routine. You know, just doing trivial, irrelevant things, as if somehow this is heroic. Everything he does is heroic, because he's the president, he's a conservative Republican. You know, they're bombarding us with useless, trivial, irrelevant information on a massive scale. And this is a frightening trend, just like what he warned us and predicted.
It's funny, you would think that Fox News, for all its, you know, negative impact on our well-being, would be an upholder of traditional values, because
no, they're not. They're an upholder of materialism. They're an upholder.
That's right.
They're an upholder of our new values, which is pleasure, money.
Because well, that's what the conservatives accuse the liberals of.
Yeah, but they're both guilty of it.
Yeah, that's an interesting
It's like the pot calling the kettle black.
That shows the superficiality.
You know.
Okay.
I mean, it's an old trick in politics. You know, accuse your opponent.
I like that idea.
Of doing
what
of
you
doing
were
what
doing.
you're doing.
Well,
Even if both of you are doing it.
Actually,
you know, to make it, you look like the hero and make them look like the bad guy.
And you see in them what you're denying in yourself too. Yeah, I think there's a lot to that actually. You know, the superficiality of Fox News is supposed to be this upholder of
truth and honor. It is it's an upholder of the party line: materialism, corruption, graft, cynical opportunism.
Yeah, that's a whole other
fascism.
subject,
You know.
And
fascist mental thought. You know.
Well,
be programmed to think exactly the same way. But the thing is, kids need. You know, it's like if you put young kids who haven't been really taught anything, you put them in a room filled with loaded guns, sharp knives, and crack cocaine, and you don't tell them, you know what type of environment they're in, and that these things are dangerous and bad for them. You know, you just leave them to their own vices. What do you think's going to happen? I mean, this is kind of what that's an extreme example, but that's kind of what's going on now, where we're leaving kids to their own vices, and we're not regulating and disciplining them. And this is what they need. What they need is discipline. They need to be limited how much time they watch TV. They need to be limited how much time they socialize on the internet. They need to be limited how much time they spend socializing with their friends, and they need to read books. You know, they need to do work. They need to be disciplined. This guy I know, I won't say his full name. I'll just say Mr. C. We'll just call him Mr. C.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. C, he was in his 20s. He was healthy. And I went over to visit him at his house. And he's in
Is this a guy in Fairfield?
This is a guy in Fairfield.
Oh, okay.
And he was playing Quest in the basement of his house.
Oh, okay.
And he didn't have a job. He's living in his mother's basement playing Quest with his brother, who was also playing it with him.
Oh, okay. And
they're on the internet playing this game. And I came to visit him.
Is C the actual initial of his last name?
That was his last name,
okay.
But I don't want to say any more.
Okay.
I don't want to say any more than that.
No.
Yeah, but what happened was I came to visit him 3 years later. He's sitting in the exact same spot, playing the exact same game. Three years later, his mother says he's down there all the time doing this.
Yeah, wow.
But she's not disciplining him to do something else like get a job, help pay the rent.
Oh, right.
You know,
definitely. Yeah.
You know, and he's healthy.
Yeah.
He's intelligent. He's not going to college.
Oh.
You know, he's not working a job.
Doesn't seem very healthy to be doing what he's doing.
And I'm watching this, and I'm just horrified by this.
Yeah, rightly so.
This trend, because it's our culture valuing pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, above everything else.
Pleasure, and you know, there's another kind of thing you see mentioned by people who are alarmed by all this. Is a kind of you could use the word autistic. You know, just person not relating to other people except online.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, that was another trend I wanted to talk about. That
just absorbed in this little world.
Technology is also breaking up our
families. It's like the Matrix, you know. It's like an unreal, you know.
It's breaking up our families. It's breaking up our society.
That's right.
Because you go to a house, you've got one person hooked into the computer, like the daughter. She's hooked into the computer, doing that. You got a son in another room watching a DVD, a TV show.
Yeah.
You got the mom watching in
Oh,
another
right,
room
yeah.
watching a TV
Yeah.
or hooked up on the internet.
Yeah,
The dad
right.
doing something separately on the internet, and they're not communicating with each other, not interacting as a family.
Yeah, that's not,
It's every man for himself in this technological matrix maze,
Yeah.
doing whatever they please
Yeah.
and not even interacting and communicating.
Yeah.
And this expands. The same problem expands to the entire
Oh.
community.
Yeah.
So our technology
But it's not really a
bringing us
community,
together.
right?
It's
a discommunity,
Yeah, it's
right?
a discommunity. It's tearing us apart. And there's another frightening trend that I see going on.
Yeah.
And the thing
Right.
is our media panders to young people. It gives them messages that you're important.
Right.
And what you feel is important.
Yes.
What you like and dislike is important.
Yeah.
And that you should enjoy yourself. You should be entertained all the time. And it gives the messages of you don't have to work hard to be successful.
Right. Okay.
And
I'm glad to hear that. I was never much of a
socialize
heartwarmer.
with your friends. Materialism equals success. Money is what counts, and it doesn't matter how you get it. And life is easy, and you can be selfish, undisciplined, and narcissistic, and that's just fine.
Yeah.
These are what these shows are teaching these kids.
Right.
And then, Harlan Ellison, he was talking about young people and saying that they feel the world owes them. They don't know why the world owes them, but they feel it owes them. Well, look at the TV shows they're being bombarded with, what the messages it's telling them.
Yeah.
And it's telling them
Well,
what they want to hear, but what they don't need to hear. And the truth is,
very good.
the truth is, what you like and dislike isn't of that much importance. The average person.
Yeah.
You're an ant living in an anthill. And you're not the queen ant. You're a worker ant.
But you're not. But there is a difference between an anthill and a human community, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to. I mean, why shouldn't people's desires?
I'm making an analogy.
I know, but I'm criticizing the analogy for
Reason.
for a reason, because we're not an anthill, and just what was it you said? That your desires aren't that important.
Yeah.
Well, they are. Right?
Well,
I mean,
let me
maybe in a purely survival level situation, which is there a lot.
Yeah.
We're fighting a war, or we're trying to make a living so bad that we don't have time to listen to our own aspirations or something. Then our what we want and our happiness. Happiness is important. It's unhappy people that make an unhappy world, right? And a violent world, right? Happiness is important. So we don't want to polarize it too bad, And I mean, I think there's a good, healthy conservatism, a surprising degree of conservatism, and I'm respectful of it, and it's kind of added element of social criticism, which is very, worth listening to and thinking about. Added to what Mark says, and Mark, whatever his name is, says in the book,
Mark Bauerlien.
Yeah. Who's great, by the way. I think he's really a super.
I think he's right on everything.
Yeah, and also his way of writing and his quality of thinking is very great. But I'm just, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That, what was I saying? That, is he saying that? Because I didn't read the whole book.
I'm doing some of my own interpretations of it.
Right. How dare you? No.
Of the problem,
Right.
But let me give you a specific example of what I was talking about earlier. Not having a broad base of knowledge.
I'm with you.
What you think
I'm with you in your criticism of all the undisciplined, narcissistic stuff and all that, and the instantaneous gratification stuff, and the superficiality and the frantic, distracted stuff. I'm with you on that,
But let me give you a specific example of that problem in one person.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Phillips.
Oh.
You know who that was? The actress who was in American Graffiti. She was in some other stuff.
Oh.
She was protesting the Saudis investing money in the United States.
Oh.
And
That's
she met
reasonable.
a Saudi prince who was the heir to the throne.
Yeah.
And she stated her position to him. And she offended him.
Oh.
And he's trying to explain to her, you are not, he was trying to be diplomatic. He's very well read, very intellectual. He's actually a patient man. And he tried to explain to Mackenzie Phillips, you were no one of importance. and what you like and dislike is of little importance.
Uh-huh.
You know, she's saying, I don't like you coming over here and spending all this money and buying all.
Well, because she thought she was a celebrity, so therefore her opinion was
Well, she wasn't that big of a
automatically
star.
weighted.
Yeah, I mean, she was in one movie that was a hit.
So, but that guy, I don't think that was a very good answer though, because why wouldn't
No,
he
that
listen?
was the right answer. That was the right answer.
No, because
she's
the person,
creating a diplomatic
I don't think
incident.
it was the right answer.
She's creating a diplomatic incident where the Saudis were about to pull all their money out of the United States. You know, which would cause basically an economic downfall of this country, a big one. You know, economic tailspin.
So you disagree with her opinion?
Yeah, absolutely, and I disagree with her.
So
being rude to the Saudi prince.
Oh, she was rude.
She was rude to him, thinking that this.
Well, but
that it was okay to do it because of the messages she keeps getting from TV. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That you're important. What you think is important.
Yeah.
You know that you're smart. You know, it's telling them that you're a lot smarter than you actually really are.
Yeah. But you know what?
And what you like, and just it's okay to be narcissistic. It's okay to be rude.
Yeah.
It's teaching her all the wrong lessons, and now she's talking with someone important, and it's creating an international incident.
But I think she was right, and probably right in expressing it. But that's that's a minor point, because your point is a well taken point, even though we could disagree about the example. Because
she created an international incident.
Yeah.
You have to understand something about America. America has become very disliked throughout the entire world.
Yeah.
We don't need more enemies. We need less. Her upsetting this guy. We had to send our own people to try and straighten this out, and we might not have been able to do it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you could equally well. I mean, since we're talking about that now, you could equally well describe that conversation as a conversation between a fairly bright young lady who's thoughtful about, maybe she doesn't agree with you, but let's say she comes from a society in which people are more free to express their opinion, whereas the Saudi society is a society in which the very fact that she's a woman expressing that opinion is probably outrageous, because it's an extraordinarily one of the most repressive societies in the entire world. So he would say that because he belongs to that culture, So that's why I'm just you're pushing my buttons or something. I'm admiring your general presentation very much and what you have to say. I've just gone off on this, but I would interpret it more along those lines.
You'd have more of a middle of the road interpretation than I'm more of an extreme. You feel I'm more of an extremist, and you're more of a moderate.
You're more on the Saudi Arabian repressive side. I mean,
I'm not for repression. What I am for is not creating a diplomatic incident that can bankrupt this country. That's good for no one in this country.
Yeah. But the thing is, I mean, realistically speaking, that guy would have to be beyond repressive. He'd have to be out of his mind to take the opinion of a private citizen as representative of the American government, right?
Or the American people, but by offending someone
or the
American
people.
The bottom line is that her going up there and acting like a spoiled brat and a fool.
Why is she a spoiled brat and a fool? Well, we're getting off on it.
Well, she's a junkie for one thing.
Oh. Is she?
Yeah. So she's not acting from a rational, logical, balanced mind to begin with. But the thing is people that are, you see what I'm saying, leaders of other countries.
Yeah.
If a private citizen offends them, that can have ramifications for the entire rest of the country.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it's funny.
It's like over
incidents. Okay, well, it's a very, very fascinating area, really.
Yeah.
Because you remember that thing with that novelist Salman Rushdie?
Yes.
The satanic
verses.
Yeah. And then, so some people thought, well, you shouldn't be so offensive to these Muslim or Islamist, people, like the head of the people who rule Iran, and everything. They're the ones who gave that.
Khomeini
Khomeini,
Khomeini ordered a death sentence on Salman.
Yeah, it was Fatah. So, you just be a little more tactful. And, maybe that's, from a certain point of view, that definitely has its value.
Yeah.
But from another point of view, there's even perhaps greater value to having a society in which people are free to say what they want and to dislike and disagree and disrespect a religion or whatever, There was a clash between two different layers of human life,
Yeah, but I'm saying,
so this is kind of
if this country
similar.
ended up bankrupt because of what she said, no one would be standing up for Mackenzie Phillips at that point. You see what I mean?
No.
They'd want to string her up.
No, okay. Listen, we can. I know that the point you're making is that these young, uninformed,
undisciplined,
self-admiring, undisciplined,
self-serving,
people, are, even if we might disagree about the example, but these people are, just to use your analogy, are like for them to take over the world. They're like children who are let into a room with the loaded guns that you're talking about before. They're going to be responsible for the world. And so you are raising the point, and this Mark was raising the point. Are we equipping them to take on the grave responsibilities and so, right? That's part of it, And not only just to run the world, but just to lead good lives for themselves.
Well, yeah, but what worries me is the fact that we're facing some of the worst crises this planet has ever seen.
Yes, that's right.
Maybe right. Economic collapse, environmental collapse, weapons of mass destruction, maybe a world war, where we destroy ourselves. If you ever saw the movie Religulous, where Bill Maher, does that, he says the only thing more frightening than prophecy is self-fulfilling prophecy. Once people feel that this is what's going to happen, they start to act in a way that's going to perpetuate that because they feel it's unavoidable. Our own self-destruction. He said, doing it without thinking. And he says this is a really frightening trend that we see going on in religion, because many people believe we're living in the end of days now.
Right, of course,
So it's like, since we're living in the end of
that's
days,
an interesting point. That all this end of days apocalyptic thinking generates its own self-fulfilling.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's true, because
it's kind of like in the American Civil War, the South revolted because people said it was inevitable that this war would happen. Well, if you say it's inevitable, it's going to become inevitable. You're going to create it.
Right.
But if you say, well, maybe we got some other options here, we might be able to avoid it. And you should try to avoid a war that you can't win, and that's what the South got themselves into.
That's
a war that they didn't have the manpower, they didn't have the money, they didn't have the resources, they didn't even have a navy. They didn't have one cannon. They didn't have one. They had actually one cannon factory in all the South. The North had like 20. They were just buried with overwhelming resources.
Another thing that brings up is whether this type of, because in a way we're talking about two different ideas of education, like we've been discussing before. That then when these young people say that, well, books are obsolete or something, and all that. And,
but I think you agree there's a problem and something needs to be done. I think we both agree on that.
Well, actually, we do.
Yeah,
I think so. It would be interesting to have somebody else defend, that this is really great and everything. But actually,
they're out there.
They are out there, and he takes a lot of them
maybe
on.
After they see the show, we can invite them on. And we'll hold them down and gang jump them.
That's right. Definitely, let's do it. But what was I going to say? I mean, actually, I know Mark Bauerlien.
Borderland. Okay.
Oh, okay. I admire him. He is a brilliant guy. And he has a lot to say, and he takes on a lot of these, as we were saying. But a lot of the viewpoints that celebrate it and think it's the greatest thing.
But if I was a parent, I would actually limit the amount of time my kids could spend socializing with other teenagers. That they could spend on the internet socializing that they could spend watching TV, and I would give them books to read on a wide variety of subjects and make them read them.
Yeah. Or now the make them read them part, that's fine. But now there's another point that comes to my mind. You limit how much they, spend on TV and online and so forth, and on their cell phones, and then give them books to read. But could there be another part that we would want to encourage and help people with, which would be really inspiring kids and helping them to get the riches that are in these more traditional modes of gaining knowledge, like books. Some way in which we, like parent can spend enough time. Like my mother, when I was little, before I even went to kindergarten, she was reading me poems out loud, And so, that could be an example of what I'm saying.
I was thinking along those lines too. And maybe even have them memorize poetry and recite it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's almost a lost skill.
Yes, yeah. A lot of stuff like that, And then another thing we could ask is, maybe the traditional education is vulnerable to people thinking, oh, it's not so great, what good is it, because in some ways it, has not offered adequate nourishment to the human soul, or however you want to put it, So maybe another whole area of inquiry that we could do on another show, or somebody could do, would be to say how we could really step back. Some of the conceptions of education, particularly on the governmental level, are so crass, It just has to do with like the 3 R's, making sure,
reading, writing, arithmetic.
And just stuff that is, or making everybody computer literate, that's the great aspiration,
Another
it's so
trend that
superficial.
frightens me that I want to talk about for a moment.
There have been thinkers in the history.
This isn't in my notes, but I want to talk about this.
Okay, I'll just say this last sentence. There have been thinkers in the history of our Western tradition, that have entered, very deeply into conceptions of what the purpose of education is, that are profound, and that are not part of the public conversation.
Well, they had a saying in the Old South, if you teach a Negro to read and write, you'll ruin him. Even the best Negro will be ruined by an education.
Only they probably didn't even use the word Negro.
I'm doing that because I don't want to offend people out there.
No,
that's not the word they use. No. I'm censoring myself. But the thing is that it gets back to the whole idea. If we can keep them ignorant, we can control them. And if the whole idea, we want them just smart enough to hold down a job and make money, but not smart enough to question authority idea. And, the trend that really frightens me, they're talking about privatizing Social Security. They're talking about privatizing education. And by that, they don't mean privatize. They mean get rid of public education. Not spend any money on it. Let's just keep them ignorant. Let's just keep them stupid. The whole... it's interesting how we refer to gambling as gaming. It's not gaming, it's gambling. It's like the Secretary of War is now called the Secretary of Defense. Language is used to deceive instead of to inform.
Newspeak, that's what they call it, Orwellian.
Orwellian idea.
There's a lot of that.
They want to get rid of education altogether, public education.
Well, now that's a,
that's a frightening.
Well, first of all, I have to compliment you again. This whole, vision of things, or a coherent sequence of ideas that you've been presenting is quite impressive to me. And losing my train of thought again. But getting old, I guess. Maybe too much. Actually, I find it difficult to finish a book these days, and part of it has to do with being distracted by the internet.
Yeah, I think so too.
But what I was going to say was that you are adding some dimensions to what Mark Borderline is saying.
I'm going beyond what he even said.
Yeah, and you're reflecting about it, and it's stimulating you to think about other things or express other things.
Society,
and so that's quite, as the youngsters say, it's quite cool.
But I think that something definitely needs to be done. Mark Carita, a friend of mine, who actually is a school teacher, I was telling him about this show that I want to do, And he was telling me right to my face, yeah, these kids, they have trouble even forming a sentence. Everything's like this and like that and like, you know, you get a president who's like forming a sentence, forming it, can form, am forming, full sentence, can do. You know, they're dumb. They like being dumb, and it's cool to be dumb. It's a really frightening trend. And I told him about it. I want to do this show.
Well, you know, one thing.
You know what he told me? He said it's a lost cause. He said because the young adults, well, the kids, they grew up on the technology. They have all the same bad habits. And they're passing them off to the next generation. They don't want to listen to you. It's a lost cause. I said, I don't care if it's a lost cause. Someone needs to fight it anyway. Even if it is a lost cause, we need to take it on.
Yeah, well, maybe it's not a lost cause.
Well, if we decide it's a lost cause, it will be one.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point.
Actually, when you say that, it makes me. I like that very much. I think you're really. You've got strong feelings about something important, and I think you're on the right side.
Right track.
Yeah.
But I think you agree with me, though.
I agree with you.
You know, if I had a kid, you know, I would, you know, if I was running the school system, I would tell parents, limit the amount of time they spend on the internet, limit the amount of time they spend on Facebook,
I agree.
And have older people be part of their lives. You know,
yes.
You know, they need to learn from older people.
Yes.
They need to talk to older people.
That's a very, very good point, because an element of this whole thing is like it's like this echo chamber thing. They're isolated in their own juvenile world, right? And they are cut off, disassociated, from the generations, the older people, and that's not right.
And another trend that I see really frightening amongst young people is we value youth so much in our culture. You know, in ancient times, people valued being older.
Right.
That oldness meant wisdom. It meant experience. You know, and that was considered a good thing. And young people didn't. You know, they're like, they don't know anything yet. You know, we got to give them some time. They didn't value youth. Now it's the other way around. My nieces, who were tweens, they weren't even teenagers yet. They were already terrified of getting old. You know, and you know, I was like, you're not even a teenager yet.
Really?
You know, but that's how much our culture pushes on the importance of being young. You know, the worst thing that can happen to you is not being young anymore. I was watching this video and it blew my mind. It's this girl. She looks like she's about 18 years old. She's at one of these techno clubs, and she's wearing an improvised diaper, and she's wearing, you know, around her waist, and she has a T-shirt that's cut off at the belly button to show that, you know, about here, to show that she has like a flat chest, that she's not flabby, and she's dancing, and she's got in pigtails. So she's trying to look like a little baby. You see what I'm saying? And she's dancing around, and she's really enjoying herself. And I'm like, she has this like baby fantasy thing going on. You know, and I'm like, you know, she's trying to look like a baby, even though she's a woman, or it looks like she's about 18 or 20. You know, and to me, you know, and she's really enjoying this, and I'm like, this is frightening. that they value the youth culture so much, being young. They try to look like a baby when they're in their 20s, or they're like late teens.
No, I understand.
I was watching it. I was just horrified, aghast.
Just to put in a contrarian word on the other side, because I agree with a lot of what you're saying. You know, but I guess you could, you know, I'm inclined to say that there is something often slightly horrifying about getting older. It's not just the physical decay and so forth and everything. It's the fact that people accumulate not only wisdom, hopefully they accumulate wisdom, but they accumulate boundaries in their mind. They get narrower, they get rigid and so forth. That is a thing. That's not good. There's nothing good about that.
No, there is. That's not good. But
you know, so you know, and so when they talk
another
about
horrifying thing in our modern society.
Well, I just want you know that there has to be some kind of a way to. I mean, ideally there would be a way so that we can, just to use that I won't even use it, well, I will, but, you know, when they talk about cultivating or liberating your inner child, you know, there is an actual validity to that idea, that, you know, the innocence, the freshness, the vitality of youth, if somehow, at least on the psychological, if not on the physical level, you know, on the physical level, to the extent that we can, try to stay young, that's good too, you know, but if somehow we could have the best of both worlds and not lose the freshness and the creativity of youthfulness, and somehow and grow in knowledge, and all the things that you're talking about are very important. Being respectful of tradition.
We're talking about
but, you
finding
know,
a balance.
That's right. We're talking about finding a balance because
and
a lot
I'm
of
all for finding a balance.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know you are. It's just I'm just saying
a
that
happy balance. But one of the things that frightens me about getting older in this society, and I'm getting older, I just turned 50, is that we live in a throwaway society. I just turned 50.
Yeah, right.
We live in a throwaway society, and it's interesting because I was applying for jobs. And some of my other friends were applying for jobs at fast food places.
Oh, yeah.
And they were hiring young people. They didn't want to hire older people, you know, for these positions.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, we live in a throwaway society, throwaway people.
That's right.
You know, as you get older, it's like they don't want you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, particularly with the youth culture that we're in.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a frightening trend.
Oh, well, let us count the ways in which an older person in a good society would be invaluable to the society, right? Yeah. The idea of a wise elder or something like that, right? Somebody who has gained all the, you know, the wisdom and experience of life, right? Yeah. Well, you're saying all that, really. Yeah. But that's right. It's terrible to lobotomize that aspect of our society. Yeah.
But we got to wrap this up.
The prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, we're on the last minute here. Final thoughts. I think, we really need to work at disciplining young people, giving them the discipline that they need. Yeah. And Dan Quayle's actually called for Hollywood to set a higher standard, to not pander to young people, but give them the life lessons that they need to learn in the media. You know, it's like, man, when I heard that, it's like, man, I never thought I'd say this, but I want to vote for Dan Quayle. You know, I agree with him 100% on that. You know. And it's like right on Dan. You know. So I think that what we really need is a change in our society.
That would be another balancing act where you can have wisdom and great inspiration and guidance and everything in the entertainment, and yet make it fabulously entertaining at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and it wouldn't have to exclude all the wild, crazy subjects that the media deals with, but it wouldn't be, like you say, pandering.
So if you're a parent out there, last words here. Don't give your kids too much freedom. You know, don't let them spend too much time socializing with other teenagers, Facebook and internet. Have them read books. You know, give them other activities, and have them talk with older people in the family. You know, interact with other people. Yeah. And I think it's necessary for us to have a healthy society. Yeah. Would you agree?
I agree.
Okay.
I do.
The two of us are in agreement. Thank you very much.
No, I think we are.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that's it. Okay, this is a wrap.